Hi friends, welcome to yet another episode of Dr.HR, and in today's session we wish to share our perspective around a critical contemporary HR practice often regarded as analytics and predictive modeling. If you talk about World Economic Forum founding chairman Klaus Schwab, when he was asked which are the critical competencies that would have relevance even during 2025, critical thinking and HR analytics features amongst one of the competences which would gain significant momentum in future. Often people also ask practitioners, what is the relevance of data? We all have got data in abundance. It's absolutely meaningless if, as a practitioner, I do not know how to read the data, how to extrapolate insights out of this data. Interestingly, these insights, if I do not apply those insights into my day-to-day operations to improve the business scenario, then these insights are of no use. Hence, in that entire scheme of things, very, very important for us to understand data, insights, and how can we really apply this. So this is pretty much going to be our point of discussion. And I'm glad that today we have a subject matter expert, Divya Anand, who is an author, who is a founder of a company precisely dealing with analytics and predictive modeling related aspects of management. She would help us out in terms of understanding the nuances of analytics, relevance of data, analytics, predictive modeling in today's business organizations. Divya, I could see on the backdrop, you have your best-selling book titled Analytics Demystified. And you often talk about thinking analytics and doing analytics. Now, help my viewers understand what is this thinking analytics all about? And is it important before we jump into doing something in analytics and predictive modeling?
Thank you, Anil. And first of all, thank you, Dr.HR. And I'm really excited to be talking to all of you, all of the subscribers who are interested in this subject. I think this subject, as you rightly said, Anil, it's taking a lot of importance and focus. So gone are those days when HR was looked at as a personal administration team, right, where it was completely focusing on the transactional activities. And then we moved into the aspect of, no, human resources is all about understanding sentiments and emotions. There are feelings for people and we need to understand that. Now we are at a phase where we are actually talking about, some of these things can be quantified. Some of these things is data. And now we have to look at these data and be able to draw some insights about it. And whatever we are talking about, human behaviors, feelings, and sentiments, slowly we have started understanding that we can actually read these sentiments through people's behaviors and quantify it. And if you're seeing that, okay, there's a lot of focus on people analytics of late, because earlier we used to see this in marketing, finance, and all. Those were pretty easy, but for HR it took some time to actually get into the people analytics space. And that is because we really were trying to take some time to quantify these people emotions actually. Right? It's not easy. It's not like one formula that works for everything. So that's where we have slowly embarked on this journey. And for all those people who are actually thinking of starting their analytics journey, please be happy that you are the early bird. So you should take definitely a pat on the back. Yeah, Google did this 10 years back, but but we are not far behind too. This is the time to actually start talking about it. So coming to the question that you asked, Anil, what is this thinking analytics? So what I have seen is like in all the 20 years that I have worked, we didn't have a concept called analytics about 20 years back when I started my career. Somewhere around we were doing some reports and things like that, but slowly we have got into reporting, and slowly we have got into some advanced and using some techniques and methodologies at the advanced level for analytics. And there are n number of courses in like Coursera or Udemy, Unacademy. You pick anything today. The biggest or the highest selling courses are all these things about analytics, right? And everybody teaches you how to do analytics. Are you going to use the decision tree methodology? Are you going to use a cluster analysis, A/B testing method, or all these kind of methodologies? But nobody is actually filling the gap to talk about, hey, first of all, what is this analytics mindset all about? I will get into the doing part of it later, but how should I even think when I start looking at analytics? So this is the gap that I wanted to fill, and that's why I'm talking a lot about thinking analytics. And first of all, what I want to clarify here is thinking analytics is actually not new at all. This is something we do every day in our lives, right? Let's look at some of the examples around us. Actually, how do we choose like which mobile I want to buy? Or let's say like how do we choose like, okay, this is the school my kids have to go to? Or let's say like I have invited some guests over and I'm thinking like, okay, what should I prepare for dinner? There are certain things that we would actually consider. So if it is a mobile, for somebody, maybe the screen size is important. For somebody, the camera capacity and the features are important. For somebody, security is important. Then they will look at all the options available in the market, and then they will say like, hey, okay, this is the phone that is suitable. For school selection, we will think, oh, okay, should it be CBSE? Should it be ICSE? How far should the school be? What kind of teachers and professors I need in the school? What kind of friends will my child get? These are some of the considerations. We are actually not doing anything new when we talk about analytics. Only thing is, in those activities, we don't give a heading called, okay, hey, okay, I want to buy a phone. Let me now start doing analytics. We don't give that heading, that's all. But naturally, involuntarily, we are actually doing analytics. So the first message that I would like to give people here is don't fear analytics. This is nothing new. We are all doing this every day. So all that we are asking is we are channelizing those thoughts. That's all. That is thinking analytics. That's the first message that I would like to give to the viewers here. The second thing is, in all the examples that I gave, right, whether it's about the dinner or the mobile phone or the school, what we are doing is we are connecting data. That's all. We are connecting, saying, hey, this is my requirement and this is what this mobile is offering. So when I connect the two, it will give me the output which I want. So that connection is what we are doing. You know, it's simple. In life, if you see, like when we were small, we would have played with a candle flame, for example, and we would have burnt our fingers. Today, if I see fire, I know that, okay, I'm connecting that information. And I know that, okay, I should not touch this. If I touch, I'll burn my fingers. That is connect. Now, if you look at organizations, how does it impact or how does it work in companies? We know this actually. If I recognize somebody or if I promote somebody, then the possibility of that person's engagement levels in the organization going up is slightly higher. We are connecting data. If we know that, okay, if we don't pay salaries to people, probably 1 month they will wait, 2 months they will wait, third month they will leave and go. This is connecting data, right? So as long as we understand that, okay, all we are doing is connecting all the data points that we need, that is thinking analytics, this connection. But if I had to like summarize and say like, okay, what is thinking analytics? I will actually broadly put it under 3 headings. One is there should be a comparison. So even in the mobile example that I was giving, we are always comparing and seeing, hey, Samsung gives this feature. OnePlus is giving this feature. So when I compare, that is when it is helping me take some decisions. So comparison is key. And second thing that we are talking about is time aspect. If we are talking about COVID, maybe like in 2015 or 16, first of all, it's not a possibility. Nobody knew about COVID at that time. But time is of no relevance there. The COVID situation at that time is no relevance. Or let's take another example. 1918, there was Spanish flu. But today, if I look at, okay, day to day, what was the increase in the Spanish flu infections around the world? Probably that much of finer details is not required at this point of time. So the timing is very important. I can't talk about what was the attrition in my organization 20 years back. The relevance it attaches to what I'm looking for today is very, very less actually. So the time becomes extremely important. The third one that we can summarize here is the context. So when I say context, it's about what kind of information are we presenting to my audience. So if I'm sitting with the learning and development head, and if I'm going on telling about, hey, you know what, in Jan 2020, our attrition was 12%. In February, it became 11.8. In March, it became 12.2. This is out of context for an L&D. He will not like it. So always presenting information, we should know that we are presenting the right kind of information at the right time to the right people.
Sure.
That kind of awareness is thinking analytics. Just doing this, right? One more thing that we do is we get all excited about data. We say like, hey, come on, let's start our analytics journey. We start collecting all kinds of data that we can actually gather. This excitement has to be controlled a bit actually. When we control it and when we are able to remove the flaps and when we are able to say like, oh, okay, this is extra information, remove this. All I need is for my problem statement, this is the data I need. That is thinking analytics, right? And every question that comes in an organization, use that as an opportunity. If we are able to think like, hey, to this question, let me start with data first. Let me start using the data and doing some analytics. That is thinking analytics. So overall, if you see what we are trying to do is, even today, say for example, attrition. If A employee is thinking attrition is 11%, employee B is thinking attrition is 13%, we are trying to remove those inconsistencies and giving them one information. As an analyst, I will give them one information. So basically bringing in consistency in the way we are thinking, that is thinking analytics. Everybody speaks the same language. Everybody understands information in the same way. There are inconsistencies which are completely removed. There are confusions which are completely removed. That is thinking analytics. When we do all these things, that is developing some kind of an analytics mindset. Once we have these base foundations set up, right, then comes all the other things like, okay, what kind of statistics I'm using here? Should I do this on Excel or should I do this on Google Sheet? Should I do this on Power BI? Those are all doing analytics. So that's the way I differentiate between thinking analytics and doing analytics.
Interesting. Thank you, Divya, for clarifying the difference. And that brings me to my next question. In your experience as a subject matter expert, you might have dealt with this numerous times. Can you tell us, can you share your experience or few examples of successful and unsuccessful people analytics projects across organizations?
Yeah, there are plenty actually. So what I'll do is I'll probably pick one or two examples and share with you. But yeah, because there's a lot of focus on people analytics of late, the examples are really plenty. And I'm happy actually we are moving in the right direction. So one example that I can give you is, let's say in recruitment and manpower planning. Simply said, earlier days, how manpower planning used to be done is like, okay, we reach out to all the leaders and ask them, like, how many people do you want in your team? They'll come back and say, I need 4 software engineers, I need 1 team leader, I need 1 director, or something like that. We sit and consolidate all that inputs. And then we say like, okay, this is the number of resources we want, and this is the budget we will anticipate in the next year or something like that. That's the way it used to be done. But today, manpower planning is a little different. It is not just about a business leader coming and saying, okay, I need this information. Today, HR is a lot more equipped with information. So today, when they go and sit with a business leader, and if they say, hey, I need 1 team leader, HR will ask them like, okay, I see that you already have 3 team leaders and 4 software engineers. So why do you need 3 team leaders for 4 software engineers? That is not enough. So maybe you have to relook at your organization structure itself. So these kind of questions are being asked, and then together HR is able to work it out with the business leader to understand what is the right organization structure, what is the right span of control for the line of business they are in, and then take that as an input. But this doesn't stop here. Manpower planning doesn't stop here. Then HR starts thinking about, okay, who are the people I can actually promote or propose for a promotion? Probably I'll take an input from the manager again and say like, okay, should we hire externally or can we create a career path for my internal employees first? So this is the second thing that happens in manpower planning. The third thing that happens is as soon as the number of open positions are listed out, HR will start thinking about like, okay, these are the positions I have. Let me see my analytics dashboard and find out which is the best source to go and hunt for talent. Is it a Naukri or is it a vendor who is working for me? What has been my success story? Maybe in certain cases, NCR region has been found to be the most helpful region when I am searching for talent. So I know like, okay, NCR region, and I know this is the vendor who is probably helping me out. I know that this vendor has a lot of experience hiring for this kind of skills and competencies we are looking at. That is helping. It doesn't end here. The next step would be like even to look at, hey, you know what? I have looked at the attrition data of my organization. While the leader is saying I need 4 new resources into the team, I anticipate 1 or 2 attritions in the next 2 or 6 months. Sure. So giving this information back to the recruitment team and saying like, hey, you know what? Don't look for 4 resources, look for 6. Build your pipeline. I anticipate this kind of attrition here. So if you look at it, the entire manpower planning has actually gone through a big shift. The way manpower planning is done is very different today. This is one of the success stories I can tell you with one of my customers, and it's working beautifully actually. So that the second one I can talk to you about is say L&D. Right, gone are those days where like, okay, learning and development team is sitting and saying like, okay, these are the different courses available. Anybody who wants it, please nominate yourself or register, come to this course, go back and all. Every time there used to be questions about, hey, what is the effectiveness of this learning program? But the effectiveness is not just by looking at, okay, I give them a survey questionnaire and everybody answers saying, okay, I like the trainer, I like the content and the quality of training was good or anything like that. And that is not effectiveness. Effectiveness is about how am I going to use that learning people are getting into to my business objectives and take advantage of it. So here is one customer where we were actually, they came up with an idea saying we will have pod kind of a system. So there will be new projects for them. One of their values was innovation. And for innovation, they created certain pods. Each pod is going to work on certain projects which are probably of their interest as well as business interest. What we did is we looked at the learning and development data. What kind of programs are people generally signing up for? So just to give you an example, there was one pod which was working on artificial intelligence. So we looked at in the last 6 months, who are the people who have taken up courses on artificial intelligence? And we said like, hey, you know what? We have a pod now and we see that you are interested in this. Why don't you become a part of this pod? You can see the advantage, right? The organization is getting benefited because their objective is being met because they wanted to do something on artificial intelligence. The individual is very happy because he is getting an opportunity to try out whatever he has learned. This is another successful project example that I can give.
Not successful ones, Divya?
Yeah, there are plenty that side too, actually. and there are reasons for that. I would actually probably not call it as not successful completely. Probably I'll say that could be because of lack of awareness or lack of education. And these are opportunities for us to start making some kind of a difference. This is where an analyst's true potential will come out, right? So, but there are, so let me give you some examples. So here is one organization, one of my customers who was totally excited about analytics. Okay? And especially all these startups and new organizations which have come up in the last few years, right? They want to try anything that is new and they want to see like they are the industry leaders. So people analytics projects was one of these fancy projects, but it started maybe as a fancy thing, but they really knew like, okay, how they can actually make use of people analytics. While the excitement was there, unfortunately, data was not available in the form it had to be. So if we are not collecting data, good quality data, obviously garbage in and garbage out, right? So this became a big blocker for them. So it started as an unsuccessful project, I would say, because the company was still not ready for analytics. But once this audit was done, and once we told them like, hey, you know what, these are the gaps you need to fill, they started working on those gaps, and slowly now they are at a stage where they are able to actually use people analytics. So this could be like one of the blockers. Another example that I can tell you is one project where we were doing rewards risk analysis. So there was this organization where employees are thinking they are not paid fairly. So their rewards are not enough. It is not up to the market standards. And the third thing is like they are not paid fairly between their internal colleagues itself. So we were trying to do some kind of a rewards risk analysis where every employee in the organization will get a risk score. So maybe I don't remember the exact scale, but I think we had like points of 1, 2, 3, 4, and a score of 4 would say like this is a high risk employee. Something has to be done about his rewards. Maybe we increase his compensation, or maybe we give him some equity, we give him some kind of recognition or something like that. And one is like a not like a high risk, very low risk. I think the person is doing pretty well. And the idea was use this score during the compensation review time and see how you can actually bring a balance as much as possible. How can we fill the gap? Everything was done. Unfortunately, this didn't turn out to be a successful project because at the time of making decisions on what kind of comp interventions have to be done to the employee, the practice was still to go with their gut feel. While the score says, okay, somebody is at a high risk, somewhere they felt like, okay, I know he is at a high risk, but I feel there is another employee, I want to give him more than this employee. Practice tended towards like, okay, I'll go by my gut feel. So if we don't trust whatever analytics we are doing, then it will become a failure actually. For all the effort that we are putting, ultimately trusting the model and trusting the methodology becomes very key. And this could be for multiple reasons. Maybe they didn't trust the model, or maybe the company was still not ready. Actually, the maturity on analytics understanding was still low. So they wanted some time to get to that stage. Maybe this was too much of an overkill for them the moment we go and say like, hey, we have an analytics model here and let's start using this. The sudden change, right? Overall, the change management is extremely important in analytics to make it successful.
Yeah, could not agree more when you said the basic philosophy or underlying philosophy of this analytics is moving from feeling based to fact based decisions. And if we are not ready, definitely it is a Herculean task just to do the transition. Divya, in your book also, often you talked about a model, and you said this is the 3D analytics framework for beginners. Just out of curiosity and for the learning of my viewers, if you could just help me out in terms of explaining what is this framework all about, how should one make a beginning, then it will be a really good help.
It's awesome, Anil. I'll definitely talk about it. So, in all these years of experience, right, I had few observations actually. So one was I realized that there's a lot of fear about this word data or analytics. So I wanted to first tell people, hey, it's not rocket science, so you don't have to fear about it. So that was my first observation. The second observation that I had is people always related analytics to technology. So the moment you say analytics, they will think like, okay, technology is important. So that's why I think one of the reasons why HR took some time to adopt to analytics is because of this fear. Because HR is mostly on the human aspects than on the technology aspects, right? So I wanted to remove this belief saying like it is not just about technology. There is not many things to be considered there. That was the second observation. The third thing that I saw is people thought if we come up with an analytic solution, that is like a one-time solution. Once I implement it, I can rest and relax, and the dashboard will keep updating on its own, and then I'm done with my job. That is not true, actually. So that was the third observation I had. And another thing that I saw is on one side, there are people talking about machine learning, natural language processing, artificial intelligence. These are the experts in all this analytics space, right? But on another side, there were people who genuinely wanted to start analytics, but they didn't know how to do it. So there was this gap which I wanted to fill, and that's when this idea struck to me, saying, "Hey, why don't I come up with a nice framework which can actually be like a guiding part to all the analytics seekers?" And this is actually something that I was already applying at my customers' places, right? Because I'm into technology and analytics consulting and advisory services. So I used to use this approach in all my customer places, and it had worked beautifully well. And now I thought it's important for me to document it. So what I did is I came up with this framework, and it was named as 3D Analytics Framework. So as you can guess it, 3D is three dimensions. So why these three dimensions is, I said the first dimension is whenever you start an analytics journey, the first thing that you have to question yourself is, who am I and what do I want? Right? That was the first dimension. The second dimension talks about, okay, once I know who I am and what I want, the second thing is the doing analytics part. So that is where I'm going to bring all the sciences together and apply to solve for whatever I want that I have seen in the first dimension. So the deep skills, the sciences became the second dimension of my framework. The third dimension is, okay, fine, I know what I want. The second dimension, I have applied all the sciences to come up with some analysis. The third one is about how am I going to present the analysis that I have completed. So there is a presentation, there is an art part of it also. So this became the third dimension. But now the question is, the framework also talks about, okay, when you say, who am I? How am I going to define who I am? There are these softer aspects which talks about values, beliefs. As an organization, this is my value. As an organization, this is my belief. These are my practices. There are these softer aspects. But there are also aspects which can actually be defined at a slightly articulated manner. And what are these aspects? I call those as the elements under each of these dimensions. So when I talk about who I am, what matters to an analyst is actually four different elements. One is objective setting. How well can I define and articulate the objectives of my organization? Here, I'm not talking about HR or people or anything, right? This framework applies to all industries and all domains. So, how well is an organization able to define and articulate their business objectives? Second one is, how is the maturity or the readiness of my employees to absorb analytics? Do they understand analytics, how they can actually make use of data and analytics, or they don't at all? The third element which I came up with is data and governance. How good is my data? Do I have like good quality data, or am I struggling to even capture the basic information that I require? Where am I? The fourth one is cost appetite. As an organization, how much am I ready to invest for analytics? If I can answer these four questions, I, as an analyst, would get a pretty good idea about the maturity of my organization for analytics. So basically, in the framework, I have also used the most popular maturity model that all of us have seen, right? Every organization goes through 5 stages of maturity. They start with an ad hoc level where everything is unplanned, unstructured, not clear, and all. And in stage 5, they actually reach the maximum where they are more agile and strategic.
Sure.
They have complete clarity on what they want. So these four elements I have explained and said, what does it mean to be at an exploratory level for our objective setting? What does it mean to be at a strategic level for cost appetite? So this is how the framework runs on the first dimension, actually. So of course, you can come back and tell me like, hey, in each of these elements, my maturity level could be different. In objective setting, maybe I'm at strategic level, but cost appetite, maybe I'm at an ad hoc level. So the book and the framework actually talks about how you can actually bring all these things down to a summarized level and say like, okay, overall, my organization is probably at stage 3 or stage 4 or something. So this is what the framework talks about on first dimension. And also in the first dimension, we talk about when I say, what do I want? We talk about what is the complexity of the problem statement that I have? Is it a very simple, something like a descriptive analytics that I'm looking for, something that has already happened and I'm just trying to summarize it? That is descriptive. Or am I looking at diagnostics, right? I know attrition is 11%, but how did this become 11%? So looking at some kind of a diagnosis to see in the last 6 months, what has been the attrition percent? That is diagnosis. The third one is about predictive attrition. So once again, here we keep talking about the early warning signals, who are the employees who are likely to leave the organization, and all that is predictive analytics. The fourth stage, the fourth level of complexity could be the prescriptive analytics. So here we talk about maybe if I increase the recognitions that we are giving to employees, my engagement levels could go up. So I'm proposing that, okay, you should increase the recognition. I'm proposing that, okay, if you do some manager training, the engagement levels will go up by, say, 2%. If you do recognition, engagement levels will go up by 5%. So this kind of prescription, which can help people take their decisions. So this constitutes the first dimension of internal ecosystem. That's what I call, where you understand who I am and you understand what I want. Once I have a pretty good picture, so if you can just write down some pointers for each of these things, if an analyst looks at it and if an analyst understands these things, he immediately knows what kind of sciences I have to add to be able to reach that objective that has been defined. So that is the second dimension, which I call as deep skills or the sciences. So here he thinks about, okay, if an organization is at ad hoc level, then in statistics, probably I will use, say, like a average, mean, median, minimum, maximum, percentage, range. These are the techniques I will use. But if an organization is at a strategic level, I'll probably go into a lot more. I will start thinking about machine learning. I'll start thinking about artificial intelligence. So an analyst now clearly knows, okay, this is the organization maturity on analytics. So therefore, these are the techniques that I'm going to use. So here I have given 4 sciences when we talk about second dimension. One is statistics. Second one is psychology. So in many, actually recently I have seen psychology being considered as an important element for analytics, but earlier that was not the case actually. Few years back, not many people were giving the required importance for psychology. So psychology is extremely important because ultimately it is the people that we are dealing with. Either I'm presenting my analytics to people or I'm using people data. So there is a people element and therefore it's important to understand my audience and people and the psychology behind what they are thinking. The third element in the second dimension, the deep skills dimension, talks about market intelligence. So I have to apply the sciences of market intelligence. It's not just about me. I should have an eye around what other people in the market are doing. And I have to make use of a lot of theories that are being presented in the world. Maybe some of those theories can be applied in my analytics too. So that's why market intelligence is important. And the fourth dimension here is technology. So now if you see, analytics is not about technology. Technology is one part of analytics actually. So here somebody will think, an analyst will think, if the organization is at ad hoc level, Excel or Google Sheet is good at. But if the organization is at strategic level, I would have already started using an R or a Python or a SAS or something like that. And then I would have started using a lot of algorithms and then big data maybe and all those things. So this is the cue for an analyst to decide, okay, what kind of sciences and the quantum of sciences that he or she is going to apply to do analytics. Once we have all these things, right, we have done our analysis. The third part, which I said, is the art of presenting our insights. Too much noise is definitely very overwhelming, and we are going to create a lot of confusion in people's mind. So we really need to see like what I am going to present to them. And it's not going to be like one size fits all. If I'm sitting with a CEO, my dashboard will look different. If I'm sitting with an operational executive, then my dashboard will be different. I'm going to give line by line data for my operational executive. So I call it as the leaf view actually. So he can go up to the leaf and see. But to a CEO, I give the forest view. I'm not going to talk about every leaf to a CEO. Actually, he doesn't need it. He just needs a summary information. So the art of presenting, that is where the third dimension comes into the play, and that becomes important. So overall, there are 6 different kinds of dashboards that we can actually present, which caters to the needs of every level in the organization and every stakeholder in the organization, every department. So this 3D analytics framework totally, it has 3 dimensions and 14 elements. So what it is trying to tell you is, in simple words, it gives you directions to think. So you know exactly which are these 14 elements that you have to think to it. So it's like a template, right? You, for everything, you just have to write few words against it. Oh, okay, objective setting, this is my objective. Analytics readiness, yeah, my organization is pretty well prepared. They understand the need for analytics. Cost appetite, yeah, I'm ready to spend money. Probably I can go up to $10,000. And statistics, I'm going to use cluster analysis. Psychology, I'm going to use something like Maslow's need hierarchy theory. Market intelligence, I'm going to use a Gartner's report here. Technology, I'll probably use Power BI here. And then, you know, like, okay, this was the objective that I'm presenting to the CEO. Probably I will go and use a planning and decision-making dashboard. That's the third dimension, the art of presentation. There is a dashboard called planning and decision-making. So this dashboard mainly aims at answering all the questions which are required for you to do strategic planning and take some decisions. So in strategic planning and decision-making dashboard, this is how I'm going to structure my dashboard. This is 3D analytics framework, and it's like a blueprint. It removes all the haziness. It will ask the right questions. So you are not actually going around in different directions and in a haphazard way. And it will clearly tell you where to focus your energy on. And that is 3D analytics framework.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you for simplifying this, Divya. So you spoke about thinking analytics, you spoke about doing analytics, and in the meantime, you also have shared the 3D framework with all of us. Now, as a HR practitioner, I feel motivated, but somehow the maturity level of my current organization is not great. How does one make a beginning, and where to start, how to go about it is a bigger dilemma in most of our minds as an HR practitioner. Any specific tips around this, Divya?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Anil. And this is one question that I have commonly been asked. Okay, everywhere people ask me like, okay, when to start and how to make a beginning. So what I have come up with is like a simple table which will give you an indication on, hey, what are your wants and what is your readiness. So if your want is an say like a descriptive analytics, and if your organization is at an ad hoc level, then I have come up with a small table which will tell you, hey, you know what, it is achievable. Just begin the journey. You are just asking for some simple descriptive analytics, that's all, and it's fine if you are at an ad hoc level. This is where you make a beginning. So just go ahead. But if an ad hoc company is asking for prescriptive analytics, then I'll tell them, like, you know what, let's be practical, let's be reasonable. It looks like a distant dream, but we will get there soon. So let's take like small steps and reach that point over a period of time. But don't have too much of, like, don't be over ambitious today. Excitement is good, but we will make a beginning and keep small steps. The other way could also, let's take the other extreme example, right? There is a organization which is at strategic maturity level, and they are looking for some descriptive analytics. The analyst will say like, hey, this is a cakewalk for you. Yeah, you have everything in place, we don't have to wait at all, let's make a beginning and let's start today. Or it could be like a strategic organization which is asking for prescriptive analytics, the last level of complexity. Then the analyst saying, you know what, I am excited because you already have all the ingredients that are required and you're also thinking in the right direction. So I just have to jump in and do the analytics for you. So bingo, you are in the right place and you are looking at things at the right time. So all excited, let's go. So in summary, what I'm trying to say is, at whatever stage you are, at whatever needs you, whatever wants or needs you have, you can make a start today. Today is the day. It's just that initial intent to say like, hey, I want to start analytics. But some of the tips that I would like to give you is, when you start, it's like this, right? If I want to become a mountaineer, and if you come and ask me like, hey, which is the first mountain you want to climb? And if I say it is Mount Everest, then it is not practical. I should start with a small hillock. So the same story applies for analytics as well. Start small, keep small incremental steps. So that's why I keep using this Maslow's need hierarchy theory. You can apply the same logic even in analytics actually. So start with some very basic data and reporting. That is good enough. But what I have seen is most companies get stuck at the reporting level. They don't actually go deeper into these reports and start pulling insights. They think that reports is nothing but analytics. So this is one tip that I would like to give. So start small, take incremental steps, make progress. Third thing is, don't get stuck at reporting. Analytics has like tons of things that you can do with that. So use that science very, very diplomatically, and you can actually achieve the success that you are looking for. But the message is, when to start analytics, it is today.
Sure.
We are not waiting for any magic to happen here. We just have to have the right intent and move forward. That's it.
Sure. Very well said, Divya. I can go on, and would love to have you and you sharing multiple perspectives around the theme. But I'm aware of the time constraint also, and hence I promise you I would ask you, with your permission, one last question. Let's say I'm not an analyst,
Sure.
Divya. I'm not an analyst. I'm an HR practitioner. Somebody who intends to really make the transition happen, at least in the mindset, and bring people to think and ultimately implement or do analytics piece. But individually, I cannot do that. I need support of other functional leads, maybe. So how do I decide who got to be in this project? Yeah, who all need to be driving this, and does this require any specific competencies, any specific skills?
Yeah, I'll answer it this way. So I spoke about two things in the beginning, right? Thinking analytics and doing analytics. For you to think analytics, thinking analytics is open for everybody actually. There are no restrictions. In fact, every single person in the organization should have this analytics mindset. What you're asking for about, okay, I'm not an analyst, I'm not a competent person to do analytics, then where do I need help? That is the doing part, the doing analytics. So the second dimension, which I was talking in my framework, right, where we bring the sciences together. So now looking at, okay, what kind of skills and competencies we need. I'm not going to talk about any titles or positions or anything here, but at a high level, let me tell you. The first person that you need in your team is someone who can think about data. So, or let me start it like this. The first thing that you want is someone who uses the analytics. So user is important. So I might have the analytics solution, but I need someone who is using whatever I'm going to create. That is the analytics readiness part also. Once we have a user in place, that is my first important member in the team. The second thing is there is a person who is looking at what kind of data, because my user has given a requirement, what kind of data should I collect in order to give it to the analyst who can do the analysis. So that is the second kind of person that we need, the one who is going to work on data. He knows what is good, what is bad. How much of data should I collect? Should I collect it for 10 years or should I collect it for 2 years? That is something. The other thing is, okay, how am I going to connect all these data and bring it into a format which is ready for the analyst to use? That is the third kind of activity the data person does, right? The third kind of member that you should have in the team is someone who can do the design thinking of this whole thing. So what I mean by design thinking is someone like a data scientist, for example. So if the user has given a requirement, it is this designer. I'm not talking about the art side of designing here. I'm talking about how to do the analytics, the design of the analytics solution. He is thinking about, okay, what kind of technique I'm going to use here. I'm going to use a correlation analysis, or should I be using a regression analysis? Should I be using should I do any sentimental analysis here? Should I do A/B testing here? This kind of thinking and putting a design into the whole idea given by the user is done by a designer, right? That's the third kind of person you need. The fourth kind of person you need is the data guy has given me the data. The designer has told me what exactly is required. Now, let me bring that into reality is the developer. So whatever the designer has said, the developer will go and say like, okay, now I'm going to use SQL, I'm going to use Power BI, and I'm going to present the information that the user has asked in this format. So totally there are these people, right? One is the user who is telling what he wants. Second is the data guy. The third person is the design guy. And fourth is the developer. Largely, these are the kind of people that you need in your team. On another side, if I can tell you, what you need is definitely someone like a Monet, right, who is an artist. So he knows how to present it. He knows whether it should be a pie chart or a bar chart, what kind of colors should I use. That's the artist side of things. Second one you need is someone like a Sherlock Holmes. So he is literally going into the details of what data is saying. It's like a treasure hunt. So he is going into the data to look for the treasure that is required. The third kind of person you need is someone like an Alice in Wonderland with a lot of curiosity. So the moment they see some door, they want to open the door and see like, hey, what is there inside. So that kind of person. The fourth person you need is someone like the competence, basically, someone who is really looking at lawyer kind of a traits, right? So there is always this argument about the two part, the for and the against part, and then they are testing this hypothesis and helping you to solve it. These are some kind of competencies that you need. You need to think like an artist, a Sherlock Holmes, an Alice in Wonderland, a lawyer. All in all, if you're able to bring in a team who have all these qualities, right, I would say you're definitely up for a successful team.
Divya, thank you very much for your time and for clarifying all our curious questions. And I'm sure I thoroughly enjoyed, I learned out of this conversation. and all my viewers would have also taken few notes, and I'm sure they would be excited to also begin their journey in the world of analytics and predictive modeling.